Registers by Michael Laskey. It's important to remember with this poem that although it's written by a man, the poet is obviously a male. That doesn't necessarily mean that the speaker is a male. Indeed, there's a real feeling, perhaps through our own preconceptions, there's a real feeling that this is a mother who's longing after her child, basically, once he goes to school. I'll read it through to you first, and then we'll start getting into it and analyse it. Out of the warm primordial cave of our conversations, Jack's gone. No more chit-chat under the blankets, pegged over chairs and nipped in drawers. So, immediately, what we get is this idea of a warm primordial cave. And this warm primordial cave is a metaphor for their conversations. Now, the idea of a primordial cave really comes back to the idea of cavemen almost, kind of, and it's comparing the conversations that this mother and her son had with the comfortableness, the simplicity of a warm primordial cave. A cave also being a part of nature, obviously. You're close to the wild, you're close to nature, but it's a key word here of warm, and it really gives a connotation of comfort, of real happiness, comfort, warmth from these kind of conversations. And caves also being hollow, it also suggests that the conversation they were having, this mother and her child, weren't exactly deep, complex discussions about evolution or God or quantum physics or anything like that. They're hollow, they're quite empty conversations in so much as content, but they obviously mean a lot to this woman. And then she uses the writer uses this caesura here, right in the middle, to separate it, to emphasise the idea that Jack's gone. Out of the warm primordial cave of our conversations, Jack's gone. And that full stop there at the end of that line again just really separates that idea of Jack's gone on its own. It really separates it and emphasises it. We get told that there is no more chit chat under the blankets, pegged over chairs and nipped in drawers. Chit chat's just a very informal way of just having a conversation where there is nothing serious, there's nothing heavy, it's just a nice chit chat conversation. And under the blankets, pegged over chairs and nipped in drawers, it's as if they've created their own little cave. So out of the warm primordial cave of our conversations, it's a metaphor for the conversations, but also it's kind of a metaphor for this idea of them making a cave, a hideout with blankets that are pegged over, clothes pegged over chairs and then tucked into drawers to create a cave-like effect almost. So it links ideally back there. So not only are the emotions, the memories, the sensations, the love, everything like that, as if it was in a warm cave, the very first time when humans kind of really came into contact and started discovering things, an exciting time almost to be human, I suppose, in some regards. She's comparing that as well with the actual cave that they made themselves. We then get into the second stanza, and the speaker tells us, throughout his 5 years an ear always open. Throughout his 5 years in the house with mum, she's always had to have an ear open for him. At worst ajar. So basically, the idea that she's constantly listening for him to make sure that he's okay, he's not hurt, he doesn't need her or anything like that, as a mother naturally does. And she says, at worst ajar. Now, ajar, you usually refer to doors being ajar, and that means just slightly open. So she's really saying, she should always have an ear open, or at least half open, ready for his call, ready if he needs anything. And the speaker goes on to tell us, I catch myself still, we don't know how long this is really taking over, but still listening out for sounds of him in the sensible house. And note the use here of enjambment. There is no punctuation at the end of the line. It's almost trying to create that idea of how frustrated the speaker is with Jack gone to school. Throughout his first 5 years, an ear always open, at worst ajar. I catch myself still listening out for sounds of him in the sensible house, and then goes on to the next stanza. It's continuing this idea, it's rambling. It's nice and rhythmic, but it's almost rambling, and it's really trying to give us that idea that the speaker's thoughts are rambling, they're going on and on and on, and it's trying to give us the impression, the feeling of this genuine despair and loneliness that the speaker feels with the son gone. And still listening out for sounds of him in the sensible house. Now there's obviously sibilance being used there quite a bit. You can pick out yourself why you think sibilance is being used perhaps the repetition of its sound. It's a bit like a child speaking or lisping when they lisp like that. So perhaps that's what it's trying to recreate, and again, it's recreating the sounds, the noises that the speaker would hear when Jack, his or her son, were about. We then get on to the third stanza, and we're told it continues on. As I said, there's enjambment from the previous stanza, so it carries straight on. There's no punctuation, and again we're told where nothing stirs but the washing machine, which clicks and churns. Clicks and churns. Clicks and churns. You've got a bit of sibilance there with clicks and churns. That sound. That sibilant sound is obviously imitating the sound of the washing machine. The only thing that the mother or father can now hear, where at one time the house would be filled by their primordial conversations that they would have with each other, it's now empty, it's silent. She's still listening out for him, but now instead of his voice, all the speaker can hear is the washing machine going on. Nothing stirs but the washing machine, which clicks and churns. I'm loosening his arms. It's saying she uses caesura here in the middle of the line. Oops, sorry, I've covered it up. There is caesura there. Let me show you. There you are. There is caesura there. After all, right there. You've got the sibilance in the S there. And that's really just separating it. As I said before, the enjambment in the previous stanza leading on to this stanza really gives the reader or the listener the impression of her frantic thoughts going around her head, just how lonely she is. And then she quickly stops, the speaker stops it in the middle of the second line of the third stanza with caesura, with a full stop, where nothing stirs but the washing machine which clicks and churns. And it's as if she skips to another memory, or he skips to another memory. I'm loosening his arms clasped round my neck, detaching, that idea of detachment, detaching myself from his soft, protracted goodbye kiss. And that idea of a soft protracted goodbye kiss goodbye, from a soft protracted kiss goodbye, the idea of that, we usually perhaps associate that with two lovers parting. Now, I'm not for a second suggesting there's anything untoward about this, but it's really trying to capture the tenderness, emotion and love between the mother or father and their son, and just how close they are to their son, obviously. And it goes into this memory. I'm loosening his arms clasped around my neck. The word choice of clasped obviously suggesting that the child is reluctant. Jack is reluctant to leave, and it's her or him. I'm loosening his arms clasped around my neck. The child doesn't want to leave, and the parent doesn't want the child to leave, but they know that the child's got to go to school. And then detaching myself from his long protracted kiss goodbye. We then get taken, almost a flash forward in this new stanza, taken to Jack's first day at school. We can imagine it's quite possibly a boarding school. It might be his first day of school and he's back again at the end of the day, but the amount of genuine loneliness and want for the child back in the previous stanzas suggests to us that perhaps it's a boarding house that wee Jack's been sent to. We get this good boy. And again, it's proud, isn't it? The speaker's proud. Or it could also be perhaps a teacher patting him on the back saying good boy. And we've got this alliteration here, diminishing down the long corridors into the huge unknown assembly hall. That idea is more perhaps of a private school idea where they've got a great big long wooden corridors and a huge unknown assembly hall, which kind of backs up the idea perhaps it's a boarding school that Jack's been sent to. But we're told he's diminishing down, that alliteration, diminishing down, it almost mimics the footsteps, doesn't it, of him walking down, the footsteps echoing down this long corridors into the huge unknown assembly hall. Really exciting word choice there for unknown, although I've not circled it very well. It's an exciting word choice, unknown. It obviously can fill both the boy and the reader with fear, but also possibly excitement, as I've beautifully written there. The unknown can be scary, of course, but it can also be quite exciting. And it's this idea of the huge unknown assembly hall. Each word strange, even his name on Miss Cracknell's tongue. And it's really this word choice here of obviously corridors, assembly hall, Miss Cracknell. It really hits home the idea that this is a school that he's gone to, and each word is strange because he's had so many conversations with his mother. Perhaps it's a boarding school, so it's in a different city, so the accent has changed. But each word to little Jack sounds strange. Even his name, something he's heard 100 times his mother or father call, even his name on Miss Cracknell's tongue. So even the way his teacher would say his name would make him feel very, possibly not necessarily apprehensive. Although each word is strange, it's not implying that it's necessarily a bad thing. There's no implication at all with this word strange. Unknown and strange, you can analyse them either way you want. You really can, because you can analyse them as being really scary and unknown and fearful and strange, or you can see it as being a positive experience. Excuse me. The poem as a whole is a really nice wee poem, and again the speaker is ungendered, if you like. We don't know if it's a male or a female. You can argue it either way. As I said at the beginning, we tend to assume it's a female because we tend to have these ideas that women are so close to their children, especially when leaving school. So we have this idea already that it's probably a woman, but again, you can argue it either way quite easily. This is the basic analysis of the poem. It's really up to you to go through it and start analysing individual word choices, memorising good quotes, ensuring that you really understand it, you understand the content. And for those of you who are obviously looking for the tone of it, you can come up with many suggestions of your own, but I would suggest it's a melancholic tone that is created throughout the poem. It's really it's not happy, but it's not sad. It's really longing for her son and to be back. But again, it's positive. It's not a negative, sad poem necessarily either. The central themes obviously being that of a first day of school, or detachment, or loneliness, or simply the idea of the unknown, which you can obviously link to other poems that you've studied as well. It should also be noted that this poem is obviously written in free verse. Let me just quickly write it down for you. It's written in free verse, meaning obviously that it does not use any consistent meter patterns, so there's not a constant stressed, unstressed, amic, pentameter or anything like that. There's no rhyme scheme, discernible rhyme scheme either, or any other kind of rhythmic or metrical or rhyming kind of pattern. It really is just by itself. It mimics the spoken word, and the reason that the writer might have decided to use free verse quite simply might be because he was wanting to mimic the parents' thoughts, the parents' feelings, the parents' melancholic emotions, if you like, about the idea of their 5-year-old child going to boarding school for the first time. So that's why the writer may have used free verse, but as always, you're free to analyse it as you see fit and how you would like.